It is now March, so that means it's time for our February reading wrap up. My name is Leslie. Welcome or welcome back. I read 10 books in February and DNF'd one, so let's talk about them. The first one that I did was A Faint Cold Fear by Karen Slaughter. This is the third in the Grant County series. I've been really enjoying it. It focuses on Sarah Linton, who is the town pediatrician / medical examiner, Jeffrey Tolliver, who is the chief of police, and Lena Adams, who is one of the detectives. And I gave this one a 4.75. I really enjoyed it. I've been enjoying this series and Karen Slaughter in general. I have been loving her. She's become one of my new favorite authors. Definitely check your trigger warnings because her books deal with some very heavy topics, but if you can handle it, they are absolutely amazing. This one focuses on a series of murders that don't necessarily look like murder, but there are some connections and some suspicious details that lead them to look into these connections. And yeah, they do their digging and figure out what's going on. So definitely excellent. Been loving the series. And I read this one on Kindle. Yeah, I bought it on Kindle. Then the next one that I read is The Hospital by A.J. Twist. This one is on Kindle Unlimited. I gave it a 3.5, but looking back, I think I probably should have rated it a little lower. I didn't love this one. It deals with a woman who washes up after a plane crash on an island. She is the only woman on this island. There's just a bunch of men around, like military men. She has no memory of who she is, why she's there, what happened. So it follows her slowly regaining her memories. I feel like at first it almost felt YA, and it's not. But it just, I don't know, it felt, the dialogue and the way the characters interacted just felt a little bit immature. But then as it got on, the subject matter got very dark, and it definitely was not young adult friendly. I was reading this with my friend and her son, and I finished it first, and I was like, you might want to stop reading that with your son. He's too young for this. Too young. Yeah, it wasn't my favorite. Maybe should be more like a 3-star. Yeah, just, yeah, I don't know. And I didn't even love the twist in the end. Yeah, that one, I'd say pass on it, but that's just me. Then the next one that I read was If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy. This one was so cute. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. It is on Kindle Unlimited. It is the first in the Meant to Be series, which is an interconnected series by different authors. I first discovered this series because I'm a Christina Lauren fan, and they wrote the one, it's the 4th in the series, that's based off of Tangled, because this is inspired by Disney. It's not like direct, but it's heavily inspired by Disney. So this is the Cinderella book, but Christina Lauren wrote the Tangled one, and I wanted to read that. And when I learned it was a series, I was like, well, I've got to read the rest of them. So this is the first in that series. This focuses on Cindy, and she is going on a dating show. And the guy is Henry, which I love because my husband is named Henry, so that was, I could just picture him every time they mentioned him. So yeah, it was just really cute. Very The Bachelor-esque type of show that they go on, him being the Bachelor. So yeah, it was really fun. I look forward to continuing that series. Then the next one that I read is the first physical book in this month, is The Christie Affair by Nina de Gramont. This focuses on the infamous 11 days that Agatha Christie went missing, but it actually is from the point of view of the mistress. So that was very interesting. Of course, nobody knows what actually happened when Agatha Christie went missing, so this is fictional, but I really enjoyed this take. I had also previously, a couple years ago, read The Mysterious Mrs. Christie, which also was a take on Agatha Christie's disappearance, but that one was actually from Agatha's point of view. So this was interesting. I especially like the parts that went into the history of the mistress when she was a kid and like all of the things that she went through. I really enjoyed it. I'd say it was probably a little bit slow to start out with, but it really picked up around like probably 40% of the way. It really picked up and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I gave it 4.5 stars. The next one is I continued on with the Miss Marple series. So I read The Moving Finger by Agatha Christie. This one is the third in the Miss Marple series. I gave it 4 stars. This one is available on Kindle Unlimited. I bought the box set, so I did not read it. I mean, I read it on my Kindle, but I did not read it on KU, but it is on KU if you're interested. I gave it 4 stars. I did not predict the ending of this one. In this one, some salacious letters are being sent accusing people of things, and it leads to multiple deaths. And a couple, not a couple, but a brother and sister moved to this small town for his recovery. He had an injury, and so he was recovering in the country thinking, oh, nothing's gonna happen, and then things happen. So it was really fun. Miss Marple doesn't come in until like the very end. She's like a third act character. So that was kind of interesting. She was not in the majority of this, but I mean, you love Miss Marple when she does come in. She's so fun. So yeah, again, I will be continuing this series. I plan on finishing it this year. So that was number 3. Making good headway. There's 13, so I am on track to finish. As long as I read 1 a month, I will be finished by December. So that's the goal, if not sooner. Then the next one was an audiobook because I had heard that the way to read this book is audio. So I used my Spotify hours on Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. This one was only okay for me. I did appreciate the production value because you got like the different characters. You got Ben and what was the main character's name? Did I even write it down? Lucy. You got Lucy and you got Ben. And whenever we were going into the podcast portions, you got like the little intro music and stuff. So that was cute, but it wasn't my favorite. I gave it 3.75. The main thing that I didn't care for was the introduction of characters. There were a lot of characters because we have pretty much this entire small town, but when they introduced characters, I felt like I should know who these people are, but they had not been introduced yet. So, for example, it would be like, I turned around and Joe was standing there, and like, as if it was a big deal, and I'm like, I don't know who Joe is. And then it'd be like, they'd have a bit of conversation and then be like, oh, and Joe is so-and-so's brother. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's who Joe is, I guess. But I didn't like how they introduced characters. I just felt like I was missing something. Like, I'm supposed to know who this is, but you've never talked about them before, so how should I know who this is? So that wasn't my favorite, but it was fun. I would say definitely probably was made better by listening on audio. I don't think I would like it as much if I just read the book. So the next was my DNF, and that is The Hidden Life of Cecily Larson by Ellen Baker. I had heard this one compared to Water for Elephants, and I love Water for Elephants, but really the similarities end at elderly person telling story of how they joined the circus. That is the only similarities. Everything else, this one was focusing a lot on her kids, and I'm like, sorry, I don't care about your kids. I care about your story of joining the circus. And it just wasn't getting to that very quickly. The sentences were long. Like, really long sentences. I found it confusing and I just wasn't enjoying it, so I decided to DNF it. I might go back later and try it on audio. That might make it better and maybe less confusing, but for me, soft DNF, we'll say, on this one. And then the next book that I read is number 4 in the Grant County series, Indelible by Karen Slaughter. This one had me on the edge of my seat. It was very good. I gave it 4 stars. This is a shootout in the police station, and it links back to something that happened in Sarah and Jeffrey's past when they had first started dating, and he takes her home to meet his mom and his friends, and things happen, people die, and it's coming back to haunt them. It was really, really good. Like from the get-go, first chapter is like, whoa. And I mean, Karen Slaughter, she'd be doing some long chapters. But this one actually had far more chapters than her books normally do. This one has 25 chapters. And normally, like, I've read some of her books that are like 500 plus pages with like 10 chapters. So I did appreciate the shorter chapters. However, she does give you chapter breaks, which is very helpful. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. And again, I will be continuing the series, so I look forward to it. And I will read the Will Trent. I've read a couple of them out of order because she writes her series in a way that if you read them out of order, you're not going to be lost. But I have heard that it's even better if you read them in order, starting with Grant County and then doing Will Trent. So that's what I'm doing. So look for the rest of that series coming probably very soon. And next, on Kindle, I have The Girl with the Make-Believe Husband by Julia Quinn. This is the second in the Rokesby series, which is also the Bridgerton prequels. This one is very different than the other ones because this one is actually set in New York instead of London. I gave it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it, but it was definitely my least favorite of any of the Bridgerton universe books so far. This one focuses on Edward Rokesby and Cecilia, I didn't write down her last name, Harcourt, I think. And Edward and Cecilia's brother are in the army together, and they go to, well, he's found in New York, but on a mission, he ended up injured and losing his memory. And Cecilia lies and says that he is her husband so that she can not only help him in hospital, but also her brother is still missing and she wants to find him. And Miss Harcourt has no pull whatsoever, but Mrs. Rokesby, however, she's got some pull, so she's finally getting answers as Mrs. Rokesby. So it was fun. Like I said, different setting. My least favorite simply because I really enjoy like the high society balls and all of that, and of course since they're in New York, we don't get that. So definitely different. And I will be continuing that series because I want to read all of the Bridgerton universe books. So after I finish the Rokesby series, I'll do the Smythe Smith. I have all of those here next to me in my TBR stack. So once I finish the Rokesbys, I will get into that. But the next one, I'm very excited about this one. The next one that I read on Kindle, I bought it, is I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. This is 5 stars. I went into this book totally blind. The only thing that I knew about it was that basically the general reactions it gets is either this is the best thing I've ever read or what the heck was that? Why did I waste my time? And also that Amber Sometimes Reads, who is one of my book buddies, and I will link her in the description. You should definitely follow her. She's so funny and so sweet, and she gives really great recommendations. But she did a video that was like, this is what I think you'd read based off of your coffee order. And she said, if you like a flat white, you might like this book. And I was like, I like a flat white. I'll give it a try. So I put it on my Amazon wish list. Lo and behold, like a couple days later, it price dropped, and I have got like my Kindle price threshold. If it goes $2.99 or lower, I buy it. And it did. So I was like, it's fate. I need to read this book. And guess what? It was incredible and I loved it. And I don't want to say too much because I truly think that going into it blind helped a lot. I had no idea what to expect. And every single page, I was like, what's going to happen next? I can't wait to see what's going to happen next. Like, where is it going from here? I have no idea. It was incredible. I might do a more in-depth video on this that includes spoilers so that I can yap about it. But for now, that's all I will say. 5 stars, incredible. I loved it. I think it's one of my new favorite books. And I know it's so early in the year, but I feel already that this has potential to be my favorite of the year. And if I come across a physical copy, I want it for my bookshelf. I'm not a trophy person. Like if I read it on Kindle or library book, I don't care to have a copy for myself, but this one I loved so much. I think I need it. I think I need it. So I'll stop before I say too much, because like I said, I really think going into that blind is the way to go. So we'll just move on to my final book of the month that I finished is The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. If you watched last month's video, you'll know that I hauled this from a really cool bookshop in California on vacation, and I wanted to get to it soon, so guess what? I got to it. Which is so unlike me because I am the type of person that I will read the back of the book and I'll be like, yeah, that looks interesting. Set it on my TBR stack and it'll be like forever. Could be months, years even before I get to it. I always go in semi-blind because I'll read the back and be like, yeah, that sounds good. Add to TBR. And then by the time I get to it, I don't read the back again. And I'm like, I've forgotten what this book is supposed to be about. I just know that past me thought I'd like it, so I'll trust her. So yeah, I knew what this one was going to be about because I just got it. It took me a hot minute because it's thick. Like, it's 512 pages, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but like, look how tiny this text is. It took a hot minute to get through it, but I really enjoyed it. It's a classical thriller. It's from 1860, so it's got like, I feel like if Agatha Christie and Jane Austen had a baby, it would be Wilkie Collins writing this book. Because it just like, it had the flowery prose like a Jane Austen, but like the twisty mystery of Agatha Christie, and I really enjoyed it. And it had a really unique writing style, where you were getting the first-hand account from the characters. So each chapter, you only know what that character knows. And so you kind of have to weave together all of their different narratives to arrive at the truth. And the author, like the narrator character that's putting this whole thing together, is Walter Hartwright. And he has very personal motives for putting this narrative together and finding out the mystery of the woman in white and why she was in the asylum, why she escaped. There's a lot of secrets. You'll find yourself liking a character one minute and then really seriously doubting them the next minute, because you'll hear the narrative of one character and they're like, yeah, this guy is great and I love him. And then the next narrative, they're like, this guy's really suspicious and I don't like him. And so it's like, ooh, what do I believe? Which one is true? So it was really fun. Like I said, it took me a while to get through it. I think I was reading this for like 8 days. And normally I get through a book in like 3 or 4 days. So but it was worth it. It was worth it. I enjoyed it. I'm really glad that I picked this one up at that store. So that is the 10 books finished and 1 DNF'd. I know I only had one audiobook. That's so strange. But that's because next month you will get my thoughts on The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt, because I'm listening to that, and let me tell you, that book is like almost 800 pages and the audiobook is 32 hours long. So it's taking me a long time to get through it. I'm like 70-ish% right now. So next month I will have that one in my wrap up. But that's why there's only the one audio, because for like the last 2 weeks I have been listening to The Goldfinch, because I only really listen when I'm commuting. So 32 hours, even at 1.5 speed, is taking a little bit to get through. The last thing, I was not really prepared for this. I should have prepared better. But I went to a thrift store earlier today, actually, and I picked up 3 new books. So I just want to show you what I got, a little mini haul. So I picked up Lucy Foley's The Guest List. I've heard this talked about a lot on TikTok, so I was kind of already interested, but then I read the blurb and I was like, that sounds really good. It's got like And Then There Were None type of vibes, and I love that book. So I don't normally get hardcover. I'm not a hardcover girly, but if it sounds good enough, I'll do it. And this sounded good enough, so we got this. This was the book of the month in April of 2020, apparently. And then The Alienist by Caleb Carr. It was written in 94, but it's set in 1896. And this is about a criminal profiler. So that sounded really interesting. Sounds very psychological, like maybe a little bit of like Criminal Minds, Mindhunters type of vibes. So that sounds interesting. And then the final one I actually heard about this morning on TikTok and then happened to find it, which is The Love of My Life by Rosie Walsh, which seems like kind of a mix between a thriller and a romance. And I'm like, I like both of those genres, so let's give it a try. So yeah, those are the new books that I picked up. Very excited to get to those in who knows when. Because like I said, it could be months, but who knows? I guess we'll find out. But anyways, that's my wrap up for February. So hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.